What happens when you mix euphoria and superheroes? Well, you get Gen V, a show about people with some crazy superpowers who are in actual fact nothing but normal. If that's not irony at its finest, then I don't know what is. For a show that's sometimes beyond bizarre, this series tackles more relatable themes and topics than you'd expect. Let me explain.
The Big Dipper.
When you think of a superhero, who's the first person you think of? I don't know about you, but I think of Superman, Spider-Man, pretty much anyone who has man at the end of their name. The interesting thing about Gen V is that our cast have abilities that at times are often a bit too real for some people. Of course, not quite literally, but they hit close to home. The difference between Peter Parker and Emma is that one can shoot webs from their wrists, while the other basically has an ED. The main character has to indulge in self-harm just to be a heavy hitter. Then there's a character in this series who can only access all of their powers by first switching and changing their gender. Each gender grants them different powers. I think this is just a play on the whole men and women are not the same discourse, but that's a conversation for another time. Jordan has to be the most Gen Z pandering character I've seen in a while. Jordan really the poster child for the they-them community on Twitter. But that's besides the point. Most of these characters represent someone. This show is a bit of a mess in terms of minor plot lines. There's a lot of vulgar scenes in the show that sometimes seem out of place. For example, in one of the episodes we learn about a character called Rufus. His main power is that of mind control, mind reading and anything and everything related to this. But when our main character ends up in a weird situation with him, she opts to blow off his sausage since he tried to force it inside of her. On top of this, there's a character in this show who is addicted to all types of holes. Whenever he sees one, he can't control himself, so he rams his third leg inside of him and, takes care of business. As much as this show sometimes seems like it's going off the rails, these experiences in everyday situations are pretty normal. Sure, we don't all go around in the forest and whip out our dick and try to impregnate whatever has depth to it. But what I like is the fact that these heroes aren't what you think they are. None of them are perfect. Take Andre for example. When his best friend died, he didn't feel any shame about sleeping with his girlfriend, Kate. And Kate herself has no guilt in letting Andre blow her back out either. These are college students. A lot of things happen in college. Trust me, this isn't rare at all. More than 50% of the student population on this campus are into doing lines of some white powder that isn't so good for you. What I like about this show is that it highlights possibilities and concepts you thought about when it comes to superheroes but never get to see on the big screen. For example, in the 5th episode at a party, we see one of the supes busy pleasing someone he's hooking up with by basically abusing his powers for her pleasure as well as his own. I couldn't help but pause the episode and think to myself, man, I wonder if the Incredible Hulk used his Hulk smash to violate the baddies. Don't say I'm weird for that, I just let my intrusive thoughts win from time to time. I know you do too. There's a lot of that in this show. After all, these are confused college students. So the sometimes questionable on-screen breeding scenes don't really catch me by surprise anymore. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. What I really like about these characters is that they flip the superhero narrative on its head. Batman is this stoic figure who runs Gotham. Aquaman has command over the sea, all the creatures beneath the surface do his bidding at will. Superman is OP and has too many cool powers to name, he's charming, charismatic and everyone likes him, except for the man with a shiny head. But the biggest difference between all the heroes I've just mentioned and the ones in this show is that their struggles are more or less prone to eliciting an emotion of relatability out of us. Let's take Emma for example. Her power of shrinking can only happen if she vomits food. This is a clear reference to people who suffer from ED. Rufus is a character whose powers are cool, but due to his odd behavior, he finds himself abusing them more often than not. He does this by trying to get women to tickle his pickle and do much more, which just always raises the question, what would you do if you had powers? Abuse them, or would you be on your moral high ground and always do right? Think about it. This is something we aren't used to seeing heroes do. Heroes all having the moral compass of someone such as Homelander. The heroes who are all household names from various IP all have this virtuous image. For example, Batman doesn't even kill. But with these people, the contrast is off the charts. They can almost kill someone at a party and try to flee the scene as if nothing happened. And on top of this, not even face real repercussions. Killer Mike has a quote that states, "I prefer a real villain to a false hero." I think that perfectly suits these characters on screen. Time and time again, we see just how out of line they can get. How sinister and wicked their actions are even though they're meant to be the future protectors. It's kinda ironic when you think about it. It makes you realize that even though normies admire them and other students pay close attention to the top 10 people on the rankings, nobody here is perfect. You might be on track to be the next big thing, but that doesn't hide the fact that you've probably got some dark secrets or insane PTSD from your childhood. This series is a stern reminder that people are severely flawed, and no amount of superhuman prowess one possesses will separate them from that. Plus, this show just highlights how dumb and reckless college students are.